let's come back and continue with the next portion here on the budget process. So since we are in budgeting now, so we need to focus on budgeting. For budgeting here, the first thing is like you are not required to know in detail on how to prepare each of the budget, unless later on I will cover two, the flexible budget and the activity-based budgeting. These two you have to know. On top of that, the rest of the detailed calculation, you are not required to know already. Most important part we are going to focus on SBL is the efficiency on how to prepare for the budget. We don't want to simply just because of our boss asks us to prepare for the budget and then we just prepare. Sometimes we have to know that why we prepare for the budget here. And we have to make sure that the budget is really served for the purpose. What are the objectives for the budgeting actually? So from what you can see here from this page here, budgeting is actually, if you really develop it in the proper way, actually you can see all these benefits. So for example, budget can help you in terms of planning, can help you to plan in advance, so that at least we know how to face with the future and what to do for the future. We won't wait until the thing is very worse already and then we just take out the action. It will be like too late already. And budget can help you in terms of forecasting as well, help you to forecast the future. Budget can help you in terms of coordination, coordinate between each of the department, and budget can serve as a communication tools. Budget can give you the authorizations, like for example, who's supposed to be in charge for this part, who's supposed to be in charge for the other part, so that we can prevent for no responsibility. Because imagine if your boss don't want to draw a very clear line, like for example, who's supposed to be the person to in charge for this part, at the end of the day, in case something happen, right, I'm sure that none of you want to bear for the responsibility. So that's why authorization is very important. Because if we don't want to split the task properly, right, at the end of the day, I'm sure that nobody will take up the responsibility and complete the task. And the next one will be, if you really implement your budget system properly, it will indirectly serve as a motivation tools. Because indirectly you give the image to the employee, you are very systematic. This will indirectly telling them that systematic is very important, and then indirectly they'll feel like very motivated. Because as a boss, you don't want in future your staff comment on your system is MAS. You know what is MAS? MAS, not must align. MAS stand for Mana Ada System. So next time in future, I'm sure that you will be the departmental head or you will be the boss of some other people. So remember, don't let other people comment that this company is actually MAS. Because if imagine your system is very messy and then you don't want to follow a proper standard procedure, at the end of the day, your staff will feel like no head and tail. It's very messy, it's very confusing. So actually budgeting is a process to help you to tidy up your system. And if your staff can really see the plan clearly, this will make them become more efficient and more effective also. And the last advantages about a proper budgeting system is your evaluations. This can help you to evaluate your staff, whether your staff is performing or not performing. And from there, you can suggest to your staff on the improvement areas. So all these are all the beauty about a proper budgetary system. As a superior in future, remember when we set for the budgeting process, right, we have to make sure that we have to take note with these three important factors. The first one here is on the level of difficulties. The level of difficulty in simple means that when we set for the budget, right, means that indirectly this is a target for the employee. So we need to make sure that the target, it won't be too difficult, or a proper budgeting term, we call this as ideal standard. Because as we know, if you set something too ideal, like too difficult for them, then you know that this one indirectly, they don't have the motivation to complete the task at all, because they know that it's something unachievable or not realistic at all. No matter how much of the effort they put in, they know that they cannot achieve with it. So they can't see the point why I have to do it. So remember, the level of difficulty cannot be too difficult and cannot be too easy also. Cannot be too easy. Because some of your staff, maybe they are very ambitious. They want to achieve something great. They want to achieve something better. So if you ask them to keep repeat the same thing again and again every day for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it is very demotivating and they'll feel like very boring with the task. So in short, the level of difficulty here have to be at the appropriate level. Cannot be too difficult, cannot be too easy. And the second thing we have to take note is on the company, the organization objective. The objective here in simple means that your whatever you plan for short term, your budget have to be consistent with your long-term missions. And the next portion here will be, the next factor we have to consider is on the level of staff involvement. In simple means that should we let the staff to involve when we prepare for the budget setting? In simple means that when we set for the target, right, should we let the staff to involve in the process, or we just tell them these are everything is like our decisions ready, is decided already, you just follow. When we come to this portion here, we come for two portion. Is either you let them to involve, we call this as participative style, means that let them to involve, and we can call this as bottom up system. Or another alternative is we call this system as top-down system. Top-down system and bottom-up is totally opposite. Top-down is more on, you just give the instructions and then you don't want to let them to participate. You are like, after you decide, you just tell them what to do. This is under top-down system. And bottom-up, totally opposite. Bottom-up means that let them to participate in the process. We can, like, for example, we can discuss with them and then see whether they can accept the target or not, all these kind of things. So again, normally students will ask me, which one is better, top down or bottom up? What do you think? I'm sure that some of you are going to tell me that top down is good. Some of you will tell me that bottom up is better. So what do you think? Normally, my answer will be, what do you think? My answer is it depends. I like this one. It depends. Depends on the situations. Because imagine, now if you deal with a group of professional people, let's say, for example, next time you are the head of the audit department. So you deal with all the auditor. If you know that you deal with all the professional staff, do you think that top-down is appropriate? No, right? Because professional staff, normally you cannot tell them that this is my instruction, exactly. So normally we have to like be lenient a bit and then try to discuss with them, talk to them. And then from there, maybe they can accept the target. But if you deal with a group of, let's say, for example, factory worker, do you think that you can let them to participate? The answer is no. So maybe top-down approach is more appropriate for those like if you deal with those lower operational staff. Because for this group of lower operational staff, normally they don't have any idea or any strategy to how to complete the task. So normally they will just wait for our instruction, what to do for the next. But for professional group staff, normally you know that they got their own idea on what to do already. They can complete the task in a very independent way. So most important, you just want to look at the outcome only, am I right? So that's why for this group of professional staff, normally I would suggest you to go for bottom up. So again, for this part, remember, if your examiner try to confuse you top down and bottom up, which one is better, right? The answer is depends. Depends on the situation. So you have to be able to discuss about the pro and cons about each of the method here. And in the exam, you need to be able to justify your answer. So all these are the three main things we have to consider on what kind of things that we have to take notes before we go for budget setting. And the next part in your notes here, you can see functional budget and the master budget. So let's move on. Functional budget in simple means that the budget you prepare for each of the department, each of the individual divisions. Then we call this as functional budget based on their function. So you can see you have sales budget, production budget, material usage, material purchasing, the labor budget and the overhead budget. And the last one, the admins and the sales overhead budget. And after you compile all the divisional budget here already, then we need to come out a master budget. The master in simple means that the master copy of the budget. So normally this one is referring to your budgeted statement of comprehensive income and statement of financial position, which is your SOFP and SOCI. This is to predict on how much, based on your budget setting here, roughly next year, how much you're going to earn for the business and how much, if lost, how much is the loss for the business. And after you plan for all this, remember, we cannot just let it be. Otherwise, it will be like consistent with what the traditional businessman always mention. For traditional businessmen, they can't see the needs why we need to go for budget. For them, it's wasting time to prepare for all this. Because for them, normally, budget for them is just like planning only. But after the planning, right, they will just throw the piece of paper away. And after that, the moment when they go for operation, they are not going to refer back with the budget anymore. They will just go for their own way. because of this, definitely they can't see the needs why we need to prepare the budget, because it's wasting time. That's why to make sure that the budget system, the control process here is really effective, right? We have to know how to calculate and investigate for the variances. So in simple means that after we implement, right, after we come out the budget, we come out the action definitely. So after we put in the action, we always compare and monitor whatever we plan and whatever we achieve. Is it equal? So if not equal, then we call this as variances already. So variances is comparing the actual result we achieve, compare with versus with the budget, with the planning. So if you found out that these two are not equal, then we have to go and find out actually why it's not equal, and then what can we do in order to rectify the problem. So this is the things that we need to do in order to serve as a meaningful comparisons. In simple means that the meaningful comparison here is like we are not like trying to measure something and then compare something just for fun only. No, actually after we compare, and then we have to take on with the next action, which is to find out why the variances is like this, and then what can we do in order to improve the situations. That's why this is the main reason why we need to continue with the next topic called flexible budget. I'm sure that for the calculation part, all of you can handle well. As I mentioned, no matter you are from ACCA or degree, you cover this in your earlier paper. So it's either in your management accounting paper in degree, and for ACCA, I know that you cover in your quite a few paper before. So that's why you are the expert for the budgeting already. So we need to compile the budgeting, and then we have to know that what is the reason we compile the budgeting is because of we want to take out the control actions. So how to take out the control action? Definitely, we talk about the variances here. So how you are going to answer for these questions, right? So I will guide you through on how you prepare all these things here. Let's look at this question together now. So for this question, you can see from the requirement here, do you think the above flexible budget and the variances are significant for controlling purpose? So this is just a very simple question only. Question asks you, do you think that the above budget is significant and the variances? So if let's try to look at the question together now. According to the questions here, you are producing a product now, and the following shows the budgeted result and the actual result. So you can see one column for budget, one column for the actual. And if you compare with the production unit here, you can see the budget means that the whole budget here you come out, right, is based on the production unit, 7,500 units. And then the actual result you achieve, right, is actually this much. But the actual result you achieve is because of your production and sales up to this much. And you come out the comparison between budget and the actual. So the comparison here, the outcome, we call this as variances. So I'm sure that this one, I just trying to like recall back with you. This is not something new for all of you, I'm sure, because you cover management accounting already. So this is something for me, it's just a revision, a recap. Okay, so now for these questions here, you can see question asks you, do you think that this is a significant comparisons? I'm sure that you're going to tell me no. The answer is no. Okay, even though you come out this variances column here, the answer here for me already, but this variances column, right, for me is insignificant. We cannot compare like this. So in order to make your budget system and your variances into a more meaningful pictures, right, suppose we promote on comparing like with like. So what do we mean by comparing like with like? Like with like in simple means that something similar, we have to compare with something similar. So it means that apple compare with apple, orange compare with orange. Don't compare apple with orange. Why? Because different shape, different color, different taste. Is that clear? So that's why in this case here, if you are comparing 7,500 and 8,200 here, I think it's like totally no need to compare, because even after you compare, right, I can't see the point why you compare, because the actual result is based on 8,200, but the budget is 7,500. How can you compare like this? Is that clear? So it's just like same thing here. I always give one example to my student here. Are you going to compare your result with kindy student or primary student result? No, right? Because you know that how to compare different standard, you know. Okay, so that's why this is the concept of flexible budget. Actually, in budgeting, there are a lot of different methods to prepare for the budgeting. But okay, you can see the two main comparison here is, I'm sure that you heard about before, flexible budget. Flexible budget is a very modern approach to prepare for budget, because flexible budget agree that we have to adjust from time to time because of the environment will change every day. So impossible we still stick with the old plan. You get what I mean? So that's why normally for the method here, I will always compare these two, the most traditional and the latest one. So the most traditional one, we call this as fixed budget. Fixed budget, the concept here is like a very traditional mindset. What they do is, after they prepare for a set of budget, right, they will follow this budget forever. Even though the situation is different already, even though the environment is different already. So they will still prepare for the fixed budget here. So for the fixed budget here, actually you can see what I highlighted for you here. This is not in your notes. You can try to run through and then you can try to copy down at the side of your notes here. This is fixed budget. And the modern approach say this budget system, right, is a bit outdated already. Because if you keep insist to follow the fixed budget here, at the end of the day, you found that what you calculate, what you compare, right, is totally not significant anymore. So it's totally outdated. You get what I mean? So that's why flexible budget coming in here. And this is not in your notes also. You can try to copy down at the side on why they promote on flexible budget nowadays. Even though flexible budget is going to spend you with more time, it's going to be more time consuming, but everyone still agree with flexible budget. Flexible budget, from the name of flexible, you know that they promote on be flexible means that we have to change from time to time if the situation different. We cannot just stick to because of lazy, because of take for granted, and then we just follow back the old budgeting system. That's why in your last point here, you can see, I try to highlight for you here, is flexible budget can help you in terms of controlling purpose. Because after we compare like with the actual result already, then at least we can plan properly, plan in a more effective way on what to do and how to do for the next. Now, let's come back to the questions now. What you're going to do for me now is your homework. You have to revise the whole statement here, come out a new variances for me. And what you need to do is definitely come out a new column, one column called flexible budget. And then you have to jot down everything here. Then after that, you need to compare with your actual result. Actual, just copy and paste. No need to come out anymore. Remember, you cannot adjust for any actual result. Actual result is already actual. So no way for you to adjust. What you need to do is adjust it to flexible level for the budget. Then compare with your actual. After that, the third column will be the variances. So after you compare, right, I'm sure that you can see something different already. So this one, I will discuss with you in class for your coming live sessions. So this one, you just do it as your homework first. And now I'm going to move on to another budgeting system we have to run through in the syllabus. This is activity-based costing. And this one, I'm sure that is another recap for all of you. No matter you're from degree or you're from ACCA, actually this one covered already in your management accounting subject. For activity-based costing, in short, I call it as ABC. This costing technique here is a very modern philosophy for us to prepare for our budget now. As for ABC, actually this philosophy here is more suitable for the modern environment today. Why I say so? Because the concept here is encourage us to calculate the cost, to predict the cost when we are doing the budgeting, right, based on the activity consumption instead of just purely based on the volume. Because for the traditional mindset is the moment when you want to predict for your cost and then do the calculation for your costing, right? So normally how they prepare for the cost, they will just based on the volume, the unit, the number of unit they produce. So the old mindset is they always treat that if you produce more, then your cost will be higher. But if you produce less, suppose the cost is much lower. However, this concept is no longer work anymore. According to activity-based costing, ABC mentions, suppose the moment when we calculate, predict the cost, right? Suppose we have to depend on how many activity involved in the production process. It's not depends on the volume only. For example, I always like to use this example to explain to students. Previously, let's say, for example, we are talking about producing a cake. So previously, because you know that compared to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people mindset is very simple. Whatever we request, we just need to a very simple kind of things, and then we are not that demanding. So let's talk about birthday cake. So normally during birthday celebration, we just need a very simple birthday cake. So for example, something like this. Okay, so we just need a very simple cake with a simple candle on top of the cake. Then we feel like very happy already. But as compared to the situation now is normally when we are celebrating for the birthday, we don't want a simple cake like this really. We want like a 2-layer, 3-layer cake. Let's say for example, 1 layer not enough, and then we need 1 more layer on top. After that, 2 layers still not enough. We need 3 layer on top. And then some more, we don't want a normal simple cake. We want something with the like 2D, 3D, 4D, or even 6D, the so-called like the design. So imagine if we follow back the traditional costing method, we always assume that if you produce 1 cake, right, normally the cost is cheaper compared to produce 10 cake. This is the old mindset. But after we cover activity-based costing, we found that actually the cost to produce 1 unit of the item can be even higher compared to 10 units of the productions. Why like this? Because simple. Because when we are producing 1 unit of the item, right, like for example, in this case here, the 3-layer cake here, the activity involved, the process involved is even more complicated compared to you produce 1 traditional cake. That's why at the end of the day, I won't be surprised that the cost, even though you produce 1 only for the cake, for the 3D cake, but the cost involved can be even more expensive compared to you produce 10 simple cake. You get what I mean? Because you know that if you produce a simple cake here, maybe the process is shorter. Baking process is not as complicated as a 3-layer cake. So maybe in 1 day, you can easily produce 10 pieces, 20 pieces, or even 30 pieces. But maybe if you produce the 3-layer cake, you need to take the whole day long to bake for the 3-layer cake. So that's why at the end of the day, the cost involved to produce the 10 simple cake can be even lower compared to you are producing the 3-layer cake. So this is the concept of activity-based costing. That's why activity-based costing ABC, the modern philosophy here, come in and remind all of us the moment when we are preparing for our cost estimation, we cannot be too simple-minded. We should look at the activity involved, because we believe that in activity-based costing here, like what I highlight to you here, because we believe that the activity create the cost, the more activity involved in that particular process will cost you even higher for the cost. So that's why activity-based costing reminds us when we predict for the cost, we should not only look at the volume of the production, we should look at the activity involved during the process. And you can see the second point I highlighted for all of you here. That's why we should calculate the cost based on the cost driver. So what do you mean by cost driver? We have to go and understand on what activity drive the cost. That's why we call this as cost driver. Therefore, if we really can prepare our budgeting based on the activity-based costing concept, then definitely we can enjoy for a lot of benefit. Like for example, like what I highlighted to all of you here, your cost calculation will be more accurate, because we don't want to be like just a old businessman, traditional businessman telling us that actually budgeting is not accurate. Because of the way how they prepare, make them feel like budgeting is not accurate. But actually, if you really follow the proper philosophy to come out the budgeting process, right? Actually, budgeting can prepare in a very meaningful approach. And then some more, at the end of the day, we can enjoy for a lot of benefit from day. So it's not like what they told you, budgeting is wasting time only. From the first benefit here, you can see, since the costs are more accurate now, the product cost will be more accurate if you follow the ABC method to prepare your budgeting. Then indirectly, you can enjoy for the benefit of better pricing. Because remember, if your cost calculation is accurate, more accurate, then from there, you know that at least you know the exact cost, how much involved here, then you can set for a proper pricing so that you won't be easily like, imagine if your cost is not really accurate, then your pricing can be either overpricing. If overpricing, you know that it's like too expensive, your customer will scared of you. But if your cost is not accurate, imagine if you put it like underpricing. Underpricing means that you set too low for the selling price. Customer happy, but the problem is you are not happy because you will make a big loss from there. So that's why a proper costing method can give you a more accurate cost system to calculate for the cost. And on top of this, actually the second benefit here, you can get a better understanding on what is the cost behavior. So why we have to understand more on the cost behavior? Cost behavior in simple means that what caused the cost happen, means what drive the cost. Because once we understand the cost behavior already, at least we can control the cost well, because we know that what is the thing caused the cost happen here. Then in order to control the cost, actually we should control on the activity caused the cost happen. So once we can control well for the activity already, indirectly we can minimize the cost. It's just like we have to know the source of the problem. Once you know the source of the problem, then you know that how to improve it already. Something I always use this example to explain to students. Imagine today you are not feeling well, you go to see doctor. So you try to get some consultation. But before you get the consultation from the doctor, I'm sure that you have to tell the doctor which part you are not feeling well. Because impossible, you just tell the doctor, I'm not feeling well today. Whole body is not really feeling well. But if your doctor asks you, which part is not feeling well, don't know. So can you imagine how your doctor give you the advice? So suppose you know that, you have to tell the doctor which part you're not feeling well, so that doctor can really give you the advice on how to save you, how to help you to cure for your illness, remember? So this is exactly the same concept on activity-based costing. If you want to control the cost, we cannot just mention we want to cut the cost, we want to reduce the cost. Most important is, I know that you want to cut the cost, you want to reduce the cost, but how to do it? That's why this is the main reason on we have to know the source of the problem first. Then we just can plan properly on how to overcome it. That's why the next point here is your overall, if you really can follow your ABC concept, then this will help you to control your cost well, and then this can prevent for your poor decisions making. Because once you get more information about the system ready, indirectly you collect more information, and then the information can support you to come out a better decisions making. All these are the benefit of activity-based costing. And if you ask me, is there any limitation on this concept? Yes, definitely. Remember what I mentioned? No matter how good is the concept, for sure we have to take note with the limitations as well. So in this case, I've highlighted to all of you on this part already. You can try to read through. And in case anything don't understand, you can ask me in the coming live sessions. And after this, you can try to browse through the summary I give it to all of you on why we need the ABC concept and why we need the ABC system to support us in today's environment. And after this, actually, I prepare one question to explain with all of you. But before I start to explain to all of you, I hope that you try to run through the theory part first. And this one, the questions here, I want you to try to figure out something, and we can check the answer together. We can discuss the answer together during your live sessions. This question is very good. If you look at the requirement here, the requirement is asking you to compare between the traditional costing and the activity-based costing. So which means you need to come out the two set of the data, the comparison, and after that we try to compare on what is different if we use the traditional method and we use the activity-based costing method to come out the predictions. So before I discuss with all of you, what you can do is you can try to draft for some answer first, then we can discuss in the coming sessions. So this question, I will leave it to all of you here.